bait fish. Atlantic croaker. The reason we do it, baby. The reason we're doing a water change keeps these guys healthy. Perfect little bait fish right there. We're gonna go through the 4 steps of a water change, starting with the reservoirs, the water that will be used to be changed. Then the water change, the fill up, and clean up, preparing the reservoirs for the next water change. This is a diagram of our reservoirs. We've got 1, 2, 3 reservoirs. And there is the status of the reservoirs from bleach and ready. So the process is pulling from the river, chlorinating it, then dechlorinate it. And this is an easy way to see what's ready. So we have 2 tanks ready. We need to dechlorinate this tank. So we know from our thing over there that 1 tank has bleach in it. So 1 tank of bleach to dechlorinate 1 tank. You take 1 cup of sodium thiosulfate and you put it in this cup with the pill. Fill this up per tank, yeah. So 1 cup of sodium thiosulfate per tank. Yeah, so fill that up with some water. I poured it here, that was kind of unnecessary. Get this going. Get it spinning. The magnet. Automatic stir. That's going. Okay, you let that dissolve. Action. You don't want Thomas to lose the pill into the reservoir, so separate. Keep that pill there for next time. Let's go take it to the reservoirs. Beautiful Florida weather. We've got our thio. The south tank needs to be dechlorinated, it has chlorine in. These 2 are ready to go. Boom. Now, gonna let that run. And we'll go on to the next step where we're gonna prep this. So this is the one that's running through the filter, the one with chlorine. We've got it running through the filter and going back. You can see that the ones that are ready to go are closed off from the chlorine. They're also closed off down here. And the one that has chlorine is being filtered. The tanks that you want to be sending to the garage for the water change, make sure that they're open. Okay, that's open, check. That's open, going to the garage. So we have an automatic remote that controls the pump on and off. And then these valves either send the water through the filter and back to the tanks or send it to the garage for the water exchange. So here's a remote. Controls the pump. Now that the pump's off, isolate the filter. You don't want the water going through the filter. You want it all going to this flexible hose. So the flexible hose is back by the garage. We're gonna need to purge that to get rid of any chlorine or any sulfuric acid that's in the line. Ready? Okay, so we got a couple different hoses here. They're all the same color, so it makes it difficult, but you got a drain line. This is how you drain all the water. Get that over there. And then you got your fill line. Take this, put it over there. There we go. Now, take the fill line. We're going to purge it of any sulfur. The remote. Off is the only button that works. Off is on, and off is off. So purge this line of any sulfur you can smell. It smells like shit, tastes like shit, because it is shit. So it smells like shit for about like 30 seconds. And then you'll smell the new clean water. There's also a temperature change, so this water's usually hot. And then you can feel the reservoir water is cold, and when it gets cold, or you can smell, it doesn't smell bad, turn it off. That's purged. You got these two separate systems, this one and that one. We're gonna change the water on this one first, so we're gonna get it ready. This is the fill water for when we change the water, and it's ready to go. So the drain one goes from the swirl separator, this is this separator, into the percolating porcelain discard trough, if you will. So you want to have all the discard water, the water that we don't want, into here. So it's not going into the grass and killing the grass, it's not going in the street and killing the grass over there. It's going into there to feed the saltwater plant. Now you're ready to change the water. You got the two tanks, two center drains. The center drains go to here. Here's the valve connecting this center drain into the swirl filter. You got the pump, and you got a UV light. Those are what you're going to be dealing with for the water change. So step one, turn off the pump. Then turn off the UV. It's important you turn off the UV because you don't want that light to get burned up. The light needs water to pass through it. Those things are done. Now you want to turn off this valve from the pump, so there's no siphon. See you guys later. See you, Thomas. Then we're gonna isolate the swirl filter so you can drain it. These valves are very hard. So now these tanks are completely isolated from the swirl filter. You can drain it. You drain it. This valve right here. Boom. You're draining. We'll come back when this is drained, and we'll show you what to do next. This is the daily sludge that this system produces. Now we're gonna clean it with a freshwater hose. Get the hose, freshwater hose, spray it out. This is the protein skimmer. We're gonna clean that out too. Clean off the protein skimmer going, and also all the nutrients that the protein skimmer collected for the day. Go throw that in the plant. You can see, now it's clean. Close this for when we fill it back up. Now we're going to purge the actual main tanks. Take it. This is I have this reducer right here. This is 2 inch to 1.25 inches. Get that in. Give it a 10-second count. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then we're going to do it for this one. We've dumped all the water that needs to be dumped for the day here. Now it's time to fill up to finish this system's water change. So you get the remote, you already purged the fill line, and boom, fill it up. You want to double check that this valve obviously is closed. Yep. So this is what the level of the water looks like when you're running. This is the level you want it to be at. So now that we're filled up, you want to turn the pump back on. So take this valve, turn it back on. It's very important that this valve is on, or you'll have major problems. There's 2 switches down here. There's one for low and the other one for high. This system, there's 2 tanks, run it for high. Okay? So let the water run through. Now that it's filled up to the top, you can open the valves going from the tank back to the swirl. The system is back up and running. See it here? Use a little bit more water. There's plenty of water in the system. Turn that off, and we're going to move this to that system. This fill to that. Now that the pump is on, I'm not going to turn it off again. You turn the UV back on. Boom. You'll see the UV light turn back on. Very important. You don't want to turn off the air. Keep the air on. Unlike this system, where the bead filter automatically does a backwash twice a day, this old school with OG bead filter, which I prefer a lot more, we have to manually do a backwash every day. So you take the drain line that goes to the plants, put it here where the three-way valve is, the three-way valve that's broken while we have a secondary valve. And the first step you want to do for a backwash is turn off this filter. Filter's off. That's not a filter, that's a pump. Turn off the pump, which is to the filter. Anyways, pump's off. Close the valve from the pump. I'm not going to really explain, you can just watch. So that's off. We're going to come up here. We're going to close this. This is the outflow to the tank. So the water goes through the filter into the tank. Close that because we're about to do a backwash. This water is going to get very dirty, and we don't want the dirty water going back into the tank. Okay, so now we're going to drain it. This creates the bubble effect that does the backwash. So air valve, three-way valve all the way to meat. Open this, you can hear the air inlet shaking up those beads. You can hear them shaking up. Oh yeah, that's a backwash. This is the effluent water from the bead filter. Yep, fish it. Yeah, you can see all that nastiness. No, that's drained. On to the next thing. Take this, which might have some water in it, so turn that off. Put it here. This is the bypass. So instead of having the water go back to the tank, we're gonna put it to the percolating porcelain trough of joy. Okay, open that up. Close this. Air valve. That's closed. Open this. Goes back into the tank. Turn this all the way over here. Make sure this valve's closed because this valve sucks. Here, there's two switches just like the other one, and unlike that one where we go to the second setting for full blast, we go to the low setting. That's the low setting. That's the high setting. You don't want that. Low setting. Now, all the water's going through the bead filter and then back out here. So you're gonna let that go until that bead filter is filled up. Might take a second. Okay. So now you can see how dirty that water is. You do not want that going back into the tank, so that's why we bypass it. We don't let it go into the tank. You want to give those plants a nice daily dose of fish poop. Oh yeah! You can see the water's already cut. I usually let it go for like 45 seconds. So let that go for a little bit longer. That water's nice and clean. So what I want to do is set the filter back before I close the bead filter. Now, this system's running like normal. We just did a backwash. Next step, we're going to drain this swirl like this system. We're going to drain it completely. So we got to isolate the tank from the swirl filter so we can drain. It's a little different though because we have a side box, a side drain. That one doesn't have, that has only a center drain. This has a side drain and a center drain. The center drain's over here. Just like this system with the swirl filter that we drain, we also have to drain this swirl filter. First step, just like over there, turn off the pump and then isolate the tank from the swirl filter. Unlike that system where there's only one center drain per tank, you have a center drain and a side drain. So first, you want to make sure that this center drain is off. That center drain. The center drain's over here, which is really hard. Get your weight over the valve. Close that center of the tank. Very hard to do. Make sure your weight's over the valve when you turn it. Then, turn this valve off, this side. So now that they're both off, we can drain this. Take the drain line, put it right here to the bottom of the swirl filter and open that valve up, which goes back to the same place, the percolene, whatever the hell you want to call it. Just like that system, you can see how dirty it is from a day. A day of feeding. Wow, that smells good. Patrick, the cameraman for the day. That's sprayed out. Close the valve. That drains it. Go ahead, get your remote. Fill it back up. We're done draining. Take the drain line, we can wrap that up, make it look nice over here. You see it's full. The bioballs are back to being full. We can turn the pump back on. Remember, low setting, not the high setting. Turn this valve back on, down there. Boop. Turn this one back on. Now she's running, baby, we can turn it off. Got enough water in the system. That's all. Now, chemical additions. Chemical additions. Chemical additions only takes a minute, but it's a good time to make sure that all your valves are good and there's enough water in the systems. We've got baking soda and soda ash. The baking soda is labeled, the soda ash isn't. And if there ever is a water chemistry issue, we have ammonia remover and it neutralizes chlorine, so that's for emergencies. Starting with the baking soda, this increases the alkalinity for the buffering effect in the water, so there isn't a huge swing of pH. So to increase the alkalinity, it's not very important if you go too much on this, so I do about 3/4 of the way full. Fill that up. You can overdo that. It's not a big deal, but the one you want to make sure you get right is the soda ash. I've got this little cup in there. I've got a line in there. This increases the pH. So I fill it right up to that line. So it's right up almost to that line, as long as you don't overdo it. Put that in there. It's almost time for a new cup. So this is for the two systems. Okay, so you take one, they both go in the biofiltration, so one per tank. So nice and slow into the biowalls, nice and slow into the biowalls. When you're done, now we can look, make sure there's enough water in there. It's filled up all the way. Boom, boom. Make sure the protein skimmers are over this the collecting cup. Take the fill line. We're done with that. Wrap that up nice. Nice this to prop up the door. Helps dry out the garage. Doesn't hurt to triple check. Make sure there's water flowing, all the valves are in the right place, UV's on, nothing's overflowing. I've got oxygen going in the tanks. That's for another time, another video. It's 6:30, so we can turn off the lights, and there's enough light coming in there that we'll have a natural sunset. We're all done. So you can see all the water we used. We can make a whole separate video on understanding how to fill up the reservoirs and balancing them and all that, but to keep it simple, yeah, this is what we use. This is going to be good for yesterday. You're going to have to fill it up and all that kind of stuff. Super complicated stuff. So yeah, I'm just going to keep it at that for this video. Was just like the daily maintenance. The actual physical water change. But there's a lot more that goes into the water chemistry, the oxygen, the parameters, including the oxygen. So yeah, that was just the basic water change. Make sure this is closed for when you turn the reservoir back on, so you're not sending water back to the garage. Like I said, whole separate video. Okay, so this one is unbleached and ready to go for tomorrow. Ready. This one is empty. We need to fill this back up at high tide. Fill up. And this one is still ready.